All right. Well, welcome everyone to the Pink Lemonade Project's programs overview for the 2026 calendar year. My name is Sarah Yee. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Director of Programs and Engagement. And today I have with me Jenny. You want to introduce yourself a little?
Sure. I'm Jenny Jasinski, she, her pronouns, and I'm the program coordinator here at Pink Lemonade Project.
And Jenny is the person that you will probably be communicating the most with in terms of any of the financial assistance things that we'll talk about a little bit today because we have quite a few updates there. Okay, so I'm assuming that Pink Lemonade Project is familiar with many of you. If you are not as aware of kind of our mission and values, we wanted to bring that up as something that we are still very much grounded in as an organization and the ways in which we provide services here in underneath where it says today's approach. So we're going to introduce and kind of review some of the programs and services that we have offered and are going to continue to offer and how they're evolving a little bit. And you may have noticed some changes on our website. You may have noticed some changes in language. So we want to provide some clarity and be really transparent about the why behind that today when we go over each of those. So, for any of you who don't contextually know the history behind the organization, it was founded in 2010. For those of you who may know Dr. Allen and Cassie Gabriel, and how both of them came together to found this organization. And we had originally taken on some of the programs that had closed because of the Komen affiliate. And so some of those still continue, but look different with us now. So originally if you've been around, if you're an OG with us and you've been around for a while, you may remember the dinner series, and then treatment access program, which was still up and running last year, and it's just going to look a little bit different this year. We do serve all the counties in Oregon and then the counties of Southwest Washington. Jenny?
Yeah. And so many of you are familiar with some of these facts, but just to run over them briefly, that 1 in 8 women will develop breast cancer. And then in the Pacific Northwest, we know that that's a little bit higher, 1 in 7 women. And men, of course, get breast cancer too. 1% of men will be diagnosed with breast cancer. um, 20 to 30% diagnosed early are still likely to experience a recurrence. So that's important to know. And then 15% of cases are due to family history, which is a fact that I learned when I came to Pink Lemonade Project. I thought that was a much higher percentage, but interesting to know that it's not that high. And then metastatic breast cancer facts as well. About 1/3 of women diagnosed with MBC live at least 5 years past diagnosis. Some may live 10 or more years beyond the diagnosis as well. 168,000 estimated people are currently living with MBC, and only 2 to 5% of funds raised for breast cancer research is focused on research for already metastasized patients. So a lot of that funding is just very specific. And then some disparities. We know that Black women under 40 have a higher rate of new breast cancer diagnoses than white women. Black women are 40% more likely to die from breast cancer than white women. Latina women are diagnosed with later stages of breast cancer, and this is a leading cause of death. Native and Indigenous people experience significantly lower screening rates than white women, and breast cancer is the second leading cause of death for Native, Indigenous, and Asian people. And then looking at screening rates, we see that compared to 2020, compared to 2025, the rates have dropped. So as you can see on the chart, Oregon went from 78% to 67%, and Washington went from 75 to 63%. And so we want to obviously raise those rates.
want to touch on something real quick before we move past this slide. In
Hmm.
Oregon, we are still working with ScreenWise in terms of sending people there as a resource for any underinsured or uninsured folks who need access to screening. In Washington, I want to be clear that right now we don't have an answer. I know we've gotten some questions already, but we don't have clarity on what that will look like for Southwest Washington. Um, but that we're working to stay on top of that information and anything that we might get as updates that we would certainly share that with the community as well. So in terms of our programs and services that we offer, they all kind of fall all along the cancer continuum. I would say that aside from really that end of life piece, that is not somewhere where we necessarily partner with organizations. Sometimes there may be topics that we cover in our virtual events or any kind of discussion we may have from somebody who may come speak to our NBC community, for example. But I would say for the majority of our programs and services, they fall within the cancer continuum between that prevention and education space all the way in through the Living with MBC. So oftentimes when you even just look at our website, for example, it may appear that PLP really just has a bunch of different programs, or we may have services that we provide. But what you don't see as often, and maybe you have seen it highlighted in some of our newsletters, is that we have partnerships that we're either creating new partnerships with organizations all around Oregon State and then Southwest Washington. But we are also continuing to find more places to engage with other partners where perhaps there are health equity issues or they're not even related to health, but really are trying to reach the communities within the disparity slide that Jenny just talked through, and getting information to those communities, especially because the access looks different for those underserved communities. So really wanting everyone to know that, like, yes, we offer these services and programs. And there is a lot of community engagement and partnerships happening on our end that I just wanted to bring some light to, and you may start to notice more of that within our newsletters and the ways in which we um, post things on social media. And so if there's ever any kind of other organization that you think would be a great partner for us or a great place to have some exposure to communities that may not know about us yet, we're always open to you bringing those to light to us as well. Okay, so speaking of programs, some of the things that we offer most consistently across the year are our program events. So you'll notice that in the past they were called Pink Link. They are no longer called Pink Link. We've just kind of put them under the umbrella of program events. And then within that umbrella, we kind of have categories of what kind of events they are. So we've got social events, we've got walks that happen every single month. Um, and then we've got some learning events along with some wellness specific events. Sometimes the learning and wellness ones will be virtual, just because those are kind of opportunities for more people to come together and not have to necessarily be in a physical space together. Typically, all of the social events, you'll see that those are in person, either up here in Southwest Washington or Portland. We try to balance where we have them in person as well. So you'll notice those under the events page on our website now. And to register for those, like all of the different events are kind of like tiles on our page. So that's a little bit different than how they used to run as far as registration goes. Um, and you'll notice that they are offered on a monthly basis. Sometimes there may be more than one offered during a month, depending on if there's a virtual and an in-person. All right, and then Jenny's going to talk a little bit about financial assistance.
Yeah, so I know a lot of you are curious about this part of our organization and some of the changes that you may have heard about that we've sent out via email blast. Um, so our financial assistance program supports expenses associated with patients' breast cancer journey from January through November. This program no longer has a mileage requirement. To serve as many people as possible, each patient will only be funded once by the financial assistance program annually. And so, Sarah, we're still going to, let me back up a little bit. We've combined what you formerly knew as Pink Practicalities and TAP. And then we're going to run that one program called Financial Assistance Program, January through November. And then in December and at the holiday time, we'll still be hosting our Holiday Glow program. And then that'll just repeat on an annual cycle. We're trying to provide assistance to more folks in more areas of Oregon and Southwest Washington, especially Oregon in those rural areas. And so we've removed the mileage requirements that was part of the TAP. So that will open things up and make it more accessible to, especially to those rural folks. And so some of the things that will stay the same that were on the previous applications. Sarah, if you wouldn't mind switching over screens. So as before, still the healthcare provider needs to submit the application online on behalf of the patient. We've had a few breakthrough applications. If you've saved one of the old Pink Practicalities or TAP tabs on your computer, please close those and refresh and use the new link on our website. You can see it there, the green button on the right that says provider, click below here to apply. So the healthcare provider does need to apply on behalf of the patient. And the patient must complete the ROI, release of information to qualify for assistance. If the patient has already completed an ROI in the past, they do not need to complete another one. We do request and we'll send to the patient along with their award, if they are awarded, a short survey that we ask that they complete and return to us. And then the turnaround time, the cycle is still basically the same, a 6 to 8 week turnaround, and we are funding 1 month in arrears. The eligibility criteria for the new combined financial assistance program is that patients are receiving breast cancer treatment, for example, surgery, chemotherapy, radiation. Chemotherapy may include antibody drug conjugates, HER2 targeted therapies, or immunotherapy. And then patients with MBC, metastatic breast cancer, are eligible. Obviously, they have their own set of challenges and different sets of treatments. And so, those will definitely be considered as well. And then this program will cover all of Oregon, all the counties in Oregon, and then the Southwest Washington counties of Clark, Cowlitz, Klickitat, Pacific, Skamania, and Waukegan. And then the patient obviously needs to express that they're having financial hardship during treatment. And again, just to reiterate, this new program does not have a mileage requirement. We've dropped that when we combine the two.
Thanks,
And
Jenny.
so go ahead, Sarah.
Oh, I was just going to add that we want to make sure you also know that this year each patient will only be funded once. So, Jenny, do you want to talk about the difference between that and how there was a cap on TAP last
Mm-hmm. Right, right. So previously in TAP, patients providers on behalf of the patients would submit multiple applications potentially throughout the year based on the mileage that they had traveled for appointments that they had. So one patient could have, from 1 to, 5 applications submitted throughout the year for varying amounts based on their mileage. So for each patient, it'll just be one award per year, so that you won't have to submit multiple applications. It'll just be one and done per year. And then, Sarah, did you want to pull up the application real quick?
Oh, sure. I had it up just a second ago.
Yeah, and the application looks a lot like the Pink Practicalities application that many of you are familiar with. It's going to ask the basic information from the patient in terms of, their name. We want to make sure we get the right mailing address for them so that the check goes to the right place. Oftentimes, I will say a patient will have a PO box for their mailing address versus the physical address. So please just make sure that we get the right address to send the check. We want to track the patient's county not country. Um, and then some demographics that help us, age, preferred language, gender identity, race or ethnicity. And then we're asking about how many folks are in the household and employed, how many are under 18, information about the diagnosis itself, the date, the stage of diagnosis, hospital where the individual is receiving treatment, the county where they're receiving treatment, um, medical insurance, yes or no, or what type they may have. If you know if the patient has been awarded financial assistance, either from Pink Lemonade Project or another organization, and then the provider information. Yeah, and then whether or not the patient would like to be on our mailing list so that they get our newsletters about other programs that we may offer.
Great. Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I will say real quick that the Holiday Glow program is essentially the same moving forward. It's the same program. We just combined the Pink Practicalities and TAP program. So Holiday Glow is essentially unchanged. And then moving on, and we can answer questions at the end if anyone has any. And then moving on to support groups, we still offering lots of support group options. We have peer-led support groups, Zest and Limoncello, and those are led by a survivor. Zest is geared towards women of a air quote younger age. There's no hard and fast rule on what that age is. It's just where the person feels comfortable, where they are in their life, and what issues they may want to discuss. And then we have some clinically led support groups, the Women's Advanced and Metastatic Support Group that we co-sponsor with Legacy. We have the Women's All Cancer Support Group that we co-sponsor with Compass. We have the Spanish Speaking Support Group that is led by a native Spanish speaking licensed clinical social worker in collaboration with Northwest Family Services and Oregon Child Development Coalition. And then we're working with Cancer Queers, which is a support group and art collective built by queer cancer survivors.
I want to clarify, I should have put Cancer Queers under peer support groups. That's my.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we also very specifically work with the MBC committee. We have an advisory council of MBC members who right now there's 3 members to that group. We're hoping to be at 5 soon, but they kind of drive the events that we have that are MBC specific. Similar to the program events where they might be social, wellness, or learning events. Um, we will be offering 1 event per quarter in addition to an MBC specific retreat as well. And then in addition to that, similar to our newsletters that go out monthly for the programs, there is what is called the Quarterly Quench newsletter that that MBC Advisory Council puts together, sometimes from their perspective, and then sometimes there are articles that they repost from somebody else that they may have learned from.
And then we have our peer mentorship program still going on, which is a one-on-one mentoring opportunity to support those on their breast cancer journey. Our mentors are volunteers who are also survivors or are living with metastatic breast cancer, and we match them with potential mentees based on the mentee's requests. So you could request to be matched by your diagnosis, your treatment, your age, your stage of life, any or all of those. We do the best we can to match folks with who's available at the time. And then our mentors are trained by a licensed clinical social worker, and they can meet virtually and talk through worries or concerns that the mentees may have. There's sort of any opportunity for them to get together. If they decide at some point they want to meet in person, we let that happen between the two of them. And we find that this has been a really great program. It's wonderful when family and friends support somebody who's been diagnosed, but I think what we've heard a lot is that when a newly diagnosed individual gets to speak with somebody who's already walked that path, that can really help ease their mind in their journey. And then our retreat. So this was our first and original program at Pink Lemonade Project. Um, these retreats are led by experienced oncology facilitators to provide guidance and counseling in a relaxing and soothing atmosphere. For 2026, we have day-long format retreats, which are a little bit different from what we've done in the past. We've been kind of dabbling in the last 2 years in both overnight and day-long retreats, and this year we're going to try these day-long formats because they've been fairly popular. It's a little bit easier for folks to get away just for a chunk of time during one day than to commit to a whole weekend. And so those who may apply for the program have finished the sort of hard and heavy active treatment. They're not doing chemotherapy, radiation. They're not having any more surgeries in the near future. They're in that sort of post heavy treatment stage. Usually we like to say they're sort of a year out from that so that they are sort of past that point where they've got their head down and they're just focusing on, getting through all the things. And then they're sort of mentally turning towards who am I now? What is my life like now? And that's what these retreats are designed to do is help the participants just, deal with who they are now, what their life looks like now, what they want to let go of, how they want to move forward. And so we also are going to offer specific retreats for those who are living with metastatic breast cancer and then a Spanish speaking retreat as well.
Thank you, Jenny.
Mhm.
So for the community outreach events and then any screening partnerships that we have, like I said, I kind of touched on these a little bit earlier in terms of screening and how that differs between both Oregon and Washington. Um, when it comes to those screenings, oftentimes we will be attached to some of the events that like the Mammoth does, for example, across Oregon. And we provide some swag bags for any people who would be attending. We're hoping to be on site with them a few more times this year, so there can be somebody there speaking on our behalf. And then in terms of community health events, there's many health wellness events that we will table at. Um, where we'll distribute those shower cards that many of you may be familiar with, or any other resources that we have to share with the community. Speaking of community, we've got our community health worker trainings or traditional health worker trainings. In partnership with OHSU, we offer two different courses. Both of those courses are offered in Spanish and English. Um, they have been running for about a year and a half now and have had really, really great feedback from them. So if you know anyone who is looking for some CEUs, we also offer a stipend. So anyone who attends does get a certificate of completion to add to their hours, and then can qualify for a stipend as well for their time in the training. We are working actually on an additional course that we're going to be adding as an offering once in the spring and once in the fall. Again, one Spanish, one English. And that is going to be coming soon. So that is kind of like the next step. There's going to be a little bit more in group engagement in that one, some role playing for CHWs to really kind of apply their learning. And then just wanted to give you an update on exactly how many people we've served this year, or I should say last calendar year. So this number of 4,738 is slightly inaccurate because we found a few more numbers just the other day. So we're actually a little bit higher than that. So we exceeded what our goal was for 2025, but wanted to show you just the growth of the organization and the reach that we've been having. So you can always find resources on our website if you ever need shower cards for the space, the physical space that you work in. You can order those on our website as well. And so these are the materials in all the multiple languages that we have them in. So if you go to our website, you can find these there. And then once you submit the form to get some of them, Chris will send those over to you. All right. And I want to allow some time for questions. I know we've had a couple of questions in the chat already that I just gave some quick answers to. So feel free to hop on the mic if there's anything that is coming up for you. If you don't have any more questions, you are free to go back to your day, of course. Like I said, because the session is recorded, if maybe you hopped in a little bit late, we will be sending this out and then you can rewatch if needed. Amy, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Thanks. Is there a set dollar amount now for the financial assistance application? Or is it still like on a case by case?
Yeah, it's still case by case and then just dependent on the funds that we have. So no, there's no set dollar amount.
And also the number of applicants we get in any month, because that
Mhm.
does vary month to month. So
Yeah, great question.
And is there still Coastbuster Cares or is that done as well?
yeah, we used up all the Coastbusters CARES funds that we
Okay.
have for 2025, so that is closed.
Okay.
We do not know if we'll be receiving more funds from them. Not in 2026, we know, and we're not sure yet about 2027. So
Yeah, I know their fundraising's kind of on hold, so that's understandable.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But at this point, um, we've spent down the fund, which is
Which
great
is
because
great.
that was the aim of the fund, and we really do appreciate, Amy, all of your attention to Lincoln County. So thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, and while if anybody's thinking of any other questions, Sarah did drop into the chat, and I should have pointed out that our registration for our retreats is open for the year. I'll just say that out loud in case you missed it in the chat, but we just announced our retreats for 2026. The first one comes up on March 7th, and then another one in May. Um, we're still working on our NBC date, but the Spanish speaking one will be in September, and those are up on the website. And hopefully within the next few weeks, we'll have the NBC date up as well.
Okay. If there aren't any other questions, we can turn off the recording. Jenny,
Mhm.
thank you to everyone who attended. If you just needed some processing time, I know we all are always multitasking, so our brains don't always surface the questions that we have in the moment. You can always reach out to us if you have those questions later. Here are our email addresses if you don't have them yet. And yeah, thank you again for coming. And let us know if there's anything else you might be needing from us. Okay. Take care, everyone.